Broadcast, and we're live.
So's the music tonight. Thank you for joining live music in Caching in the Northwest. The album will be for sale, 1995. No, 3 easy payments of 1995.
But wait, there's more.
Is it available on 8-track?
Ooh, yes, why not?
Okay. Then I'm in.
That was easy.
And cassette.
Nice.
And LP.
Well, it's got to be vinyl.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who wouldn't want vinyl these days?
It's popular.
Anybody with a car?
Yeah. The cool kids like it.
Yeah, I like it too.
The cool kids and Jim like it.
Okay. We're good. All right.
Speaking of feeling bullied. All right. Hey, let's play some music and start a podcast. What do you think?
I'm going to do that. I'm going to hit record, play some music, and off we go. I launch this podcast. Here we go. Thanks for joining us on a chilly Thursday night. You found us. This is Caching in the Northwest. It's the only podcast dedicated to geocaching in the great Pacific Northwest. We're going to talk about caches and cachers unique to this little corner of the country. So admit it, you're still writing 2016 everywhere. But don't worry, it's time to go caching in the Northwest.
That's right. And if it's time for that, well, then it's time to bring in our award-winning monkey. Some say he can leap an ammo can in a single bound. And others say the Geocaching International Film Festival came back for 1 year just for his videos. All we know is he's called Len Monkey.
Hey guys, great to be back again. I missed being live with you guys, well, live in the feed, but I didn't miss harassing you guys remotely, and I really got to have the full experience of what it's like to be Statler and Waldorf in the chat room. So it was awesome.
And I mean this in the most loving way when I say, we'll get even.
Please don't do it again. Well, as we always do off the, no, go ahead, Chris.
You don't know when, you don't know how, but we'll get even.
Great. All right. Well, hey, as we always do early off in the show, we want to thank our faithful Denali level supporters. That's Limax, the Mount Vernon Parks and Rec Department, and worldcaching.com. Folks, if you want to know more about supporting the show, please click the Patreon link on the cachingnw.com website. And speaking of cool things, tonight we are going to talk with Nick Hubbard of Cachly. Nick, it's great to have you joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks, guys.
Well, we want to thank you for all those people who sent in glows last year. We have a pile of glows from last year, but we still need your glows. Maybe it's from this year, maybe it's from last year, maybe it's from 16 years ago when geocaching just started. You remember when you used to write the glows right there in the logbook? Well, maybe you didn't, but you know, back then you used to write longer logs in the actual logbook than you do now. Now you write them online so everyone can see them. We call this segment Glow, or Geocaching Log of the Week. And we need your glow-worthy logs. So whether you wrote it or not, we want to hear about it. Send an email to feedback@cachingnw.com. Even better, call into 253-693-TFTC or use that voicemail tool on the website and show us how you glow.
That's right. And tonight, we have a glow contributed by faithful friend, supporter of the show, Limax. And he writes... this is from the log, or from the cache. Good morning, Mr. Phelps. So his glow reads, it had been over 2 years since I had any contact with the machine, and I figured it was probably gone for good and I wouldn't have to deal with it anymore. I was surprised, however, to find that apparently someone else had been following my trials with it and figured I had the skills needed for this latest threat to the world. Apparently, the IMF have been keeping close tabs on me, which might be why I found a cassette tape in with my mail today. The envelope it came in was not labeled nor written on, but I figured it must be important. The problem was I had no tape player. I mean, really, who does, right? I searched in my room, the study, the attic, and also under my bed. I could not find a tape player anywhere. I started hitting the local electronics stores. They all looked at me as if I were going mad. The old feelings of frustration and torture started to resurface. With tears in my eyes, I left the last store I tried and tried to make my way home through the rain. That's when I realized it wasn't raining and it was just my tears. I turned the corner for home and happened to spot a stack of garbage that someone had left by the curb. What amazed me is that right on top was a tape player. I could not believe my eyes. With tears of joy, I reached for it just as a flock of pickers came from the other direction searching for lost treasure. I had to beat them off with a broken-off table leg and rushed to my car with my prize. I got it home and I was surprised when it worked right away. I put the tape in that I received and listened to the message. For some reason, it was calling me Mr. Phelps. I figured it must have been just a mispronunciation of my name. Limax does sound a lot like Phelps. I listened to the message, and right before I could press the stop button, the whole thing exploded in a whirl of plastic. Thankfully, the big shards missed me, but I could still feel some prickling on my skin. So, the new threat is from the Bassoville Syndicate. I've only lived in Bassoville for a little while. I came here because it seemed much quieter, and there seemed to be no evidence of the machine visiting here. By following the directions on the tape, I found a cache that contained more information and photos of the group. One of them looked quite handsome, although there was something about his eyes that disturbed me. In the cache were directions to meet up at a nearby location where I would receive further instructions. Well, I searched and searched for that location only to finally stumble upon it purely by accident. Apparently, the syndicate had been following me and had cleverly changed the name of the rendezvous spot before I could get there. Finally reached the spot I needed to be, and I was able to get further instructions. The recording, well, it was still calling me Phelps, but I didn't let that disturb me. I found there was going to be a microfilm drop, and I needed to beat the syndicate to the spot. I made a couple of wrong turns on the way, and apparently the syndicate had somehow taken over my GPSR because it was pointing me to stopping on the freeway again. I see shades of an earlier malevolent entity in this new threat. I was able to finally find my way to the location, only to find that someone else had been there before me. All I found was a slip of paper, a log of some sort, which I signed, and I'm not sure what will happen next, but I'm afraid I could be called out to defend my world.
Oh, I love these stories from Limax. And, he wrote not that long ago and said that all of the machine caches had been archived. That's really quite sad.
That's I don't know how many caches total are in that series, but maybe that's a FATAS topic.
Like 18 million.
Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
approximately.
All of which have been read right here on the Glow.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, moving to some news stories. I was going through a whole bunch of different news on my Twitter feed over the last week, and the tabulations have been done, and North Shore Rescue, as well as several other search and rescue organizations, have been sharing that 2016 was the highest number of calls they've had in their recorded history for their respective organizations. So we've got a lot more people going off into the backcountry, which is great, but it sounds like we've got a lot more people going off into the backcountry unprepared for their adventures. Guys, we know anybody who listens to this podcast knows it and does it because you listen to this podcast and we beat you over the head with this. But in an already short winter season, we've had tragedies and rescues in the local mountains up here in BC. So people plan and prepare. And hey, on the topic of planning, there is a website, Adventure Smart BC. They offer great advice on their website at a link that we're going to put into the chat and the show notes. And not only that, do they have lots of great advice. They have a downloadable template for trip plans and even an online form for a trip plan that you can fill out and email to somebody on your way to your destination. So
I like that.
It's really cool, actually. It's a neat idea.
I just heard this week that, even if you're planning to go out last minute, you're going out into the backcountry, file a trip plan. What does that mean? That could mean a sticky note on the mirror, in your spouse's mirror, and saying, hey, I've gone out,
Doesn't
hope
help
to
if
be
your
back.
spouse is coming with you, but
Well, I know, but I mean, you could use a sticky note. Yes, you could send an email. You can tell people, just whatever it takes to let somebody know you're out there.
well, and hey, as geocachers, it can be as simple as saying, I'm going after geocache GC code, and
XYZ.
this is the trailhead I'm going from. At that point, and of course, this is what time I'm leaving, this is what time I expect to get back. At that point, whoever you're giving that information to is going to have enough information for the search and rescue crews to be pretty accurate in finding you. The tragedy I talked about earlier, we were pretty sure, because they called off the search, that 2 snowshoers in the North Shore Mountains have succumbed to the weather. And that is tragic. They were gone for 3 days, 4 days, I think they were running the searches for, with heavy snowfall. There's no tracks to follow. There was no trip plan. The only thing people knew is they were planning on going snowshoeing together. Nobody had any idea where they were going to go or anything. So that's a real tragedy. And I'm not going to say it could be avoided, because tragedies happen, but it's certainly, folks, we can try and minimize that.
Definitely. Tracy from World Caching says in the chat, says, be careful out there, everyone. My son-in-law is a volunteer for the Central Fraser Valley Search and Rescue. They risk their lives every time they go out. And, that's a really good thing to remember. It's not just all about you. Absolutely. So when you go out unprepared, you're risking the lives of those coming out after you.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of Tracy from World Caching, Chris, do you have any news to share?
I do. Do you know, in the last couple of months, we've given away travel tags from worldcaching.com. Maybe you haven't heard. That's because you haven't listening.
Them away for free.
We're giving them away for free. And if you don't know that, you haven't been listening to the podcast. So we're giving them away for free. Last month was the ugly sweater contest. And this one, we had some of the best response in. But we went through and picked, we had random.org pick a winner, because
you're not accepting any responsibility for this.
That's
exactly.
Right.
I'm trying to say that there was a level of
non-favoritism.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it didn't involve any comments about Canuck sweaters at all.
And our lucky winner for December is Shermanator 18.
Huzzah!
For the ugly sweater that she wore. Wait.
The sweater.
The sweater, yeah. You can't win saying that, can you? So she's going to win the ugly sweater travel tag for December.
Congratulations.
Right arm. Well, hey, speaking of Shermanator 18, guys, if you like listening to other geocaching podcasts, I don't know why you...
There's others?
Yeah, I know.
What?
Apparently.
It's crazy talk.
Anyways, one of our other favorites is Geocache Talk. And Gary from Geocache Talk has contacted myself and Shermanator 18, and we will both be guesting on his Sunday, January 15th show. And guess what we're going to talk about?
Ugly sweaters?
Yeah.
Vancouver
Close.
Canucks?
Close.
Tim Hortons.
Ooh, I'm in.
Earth caches.
Oh.
What do you know about Earth caches?
Not much. We're going to talk about submitting Earth caches to the reviewers. So
Nice.
that's going to be the topic. We've already got all our show notes done. I had to sort of squeeze a few notes in. Shermanator she's got a lot she wants to talk about. So it's going to be a great episode. Tune in either live on Sunday, January 15th at, I think it's 8 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Pacific.
All right.
Or if not, pick it up on the podcast feeds afterwards.
Let's start with the part where Land Monkey gets knocked out by Shermanator 18, because that part never gets old.
Skip ahead.
Wow. Well, I don't know how to segue from that one.
Well, hey, I'm going to jump into something out of the chat room here.
Yes.
Wino Seattle just noted that they published their very first Earth cache last month. So congratulations, Wino Seattle. Well
Welcome
done.
to the club, Buenos.
Yeah, well done.
Very nicely done.
Well, I think that covers off our news for tonight. Am I correct?
That's what I have for news for tonight.
All right.
What we want to talk about is a man who's sitting very patiently waiting for us to acknowledge his presence.
Oh, hey, Nick.
I'm good.
Didn't see you come in.
Nick, thank you so much for joining us. Now, Nick, you're known for Cachly,
Yes.
but you're also a geocacher, are you not? You're
I
more than
am.
just the Cachly program.
Yes. Yes. I probably spend more time working on Cachly than actually geocaching, especially with this freezing cold weather right now. I haven't been out for a while. But yes, I'm also a geocacher.
Yeah, it's cold, Now,
Yes.
I'm down here in Tacoma, so it's 20 degrees this morning. We call that cold.
That's cold.
Yeah, it can get colder.
That's Fahrenheit.
That's Fahrenheit. And that's, the average year-round temperature in Canada is what I heard.
I think so.
It feels like it this week, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So Cachly is one of the best, I would say the best geocaching apps for the iPhone.
I've heard that.
Oh, you should know.
Not being an
Everyone
iPhone
should know
user.
Cachly.
Yeah.
And recently you released version 2, and there were so many changes in version 2.
Yes.
What were some of the things that you improved from version 1 or 1.1 to 2?
So many things. I mean, there was a facelift with a bunch of things like the map callouts, the list view, the details view of caches. Those were kind of redesigned, and tons more info was shown, especially like on list view and the map callout. We were missing a bunch of information like favorites and how many trackables were in there, and even the geocache codes. Small things like that users were, they had seen in other apps, or they were just wishing that they could, tap on the little, map pin and see that info. I was waiting for a good way to display that. Design-wise, I know that's something that not everybody thinks about, but I didn't want to just slap on, a new text label without making it look nice. So that's also something that I try to do in Cachly, is make it look really pleasing to the eye as well as making it simplistic and powerful. So, yeah, so there's those kind of features. One of the major features was our new offline vector maps. So that replaced the old tile-based downloading that we had in the past, which was cumbersome. It took forever. It took, just massive amounts of space on your device. And even me, myself, I had a 16 gigabyte iPhone for testing, which was horrible. Don't ever buy a 16 gig. But I mean, I would download, just a small amount of maps, and I would end up with 2 gigs of images because you're downloading tiles. So now you can download Washington State as a vector map for 68 megabytes. So that's a huge improvement over tile-based maps, because that would have been a couple terabytes for all of Washington State.
So Nick, I have a question for myself and perhaps other users who don't necessarily know the difference.
Okay.
Between, now we know that a vector map is the opposite of a tile-based map, because that's what you just said. But
yes.
But what is a vector map? What does that mean?
So basically, tile-based maps are image files that you're downloading, and so in maps like Google Maps and different things, you start out at zoom level 0 all the way out viewing Earth, and then you zoom in to a really close level, which might be like level 22. So the whole Earth has trillions of tiles. So think about downloading multiple zoom levels of image files when you want to go out caching. You're going to download maybe like 30,000 image files. So vector is just basically a database describing all of the data. So then you render it in real time as you're viewing the map. So you're actually rendering out tiles, but you're rendering out from a database of information. So we no longer obviously can do, you can't do vector satellite maps, which is obvious because those are images, but we can do OpenStreetMaps as vector. So that's where we save all the huge amount of space, because it's just data from a database instead of image files. So.
Yeah,
does that explain it?
Really good.
It does. Thanks, Nick. That's really helpful, and I think it. So I guess the point here of why there's huge value in moving Cachly to offline vector maps is the fact that not only is there significant savings on your data that you're using live
Yep.
when you're online, but once you go offline, it's less storage, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, and there was so many problems with tile-based map downloading, because for each tile you download, you're making a request to a server to download one file. So again, if you're downloading 30,000 tiles, you're making 30,000 requests. You might get interrupted when you're on a cell phone. Something might happen. So there was a lot of room for errors happening with that. Now you're just downloading a zip file, and you're making one request. So it's such an easier process. The backend stuff and the rendering stuff is really complicated, but as far as the user experience, it's so much better.
That's a great point I'd never even considered, because, we all think about, well, it saves me space on my device, but it also saves, wear and tear and load on the servers that are providing these services.
Yep, absolutely. And now I host all of my own data. Before, I used to have to pay a third-party service for all the map tiles. But now I can do it all myself, which is nice. So I've kind of more control over all of the working pieces of it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Nice. And you can download individual states. So, if you're going out hiking just here in Washington State, you can download just Washington State, not fill your device up, or provinces in, I was going to say in BC, in Canada.
Yes. Yeah, you can also download parts of the United States. So you can download like the Northeast, the Northwest, and it'll group a bunch of states together. And those downloads are still really small, just a couple hundred megabytes.
Mm-hmm. Other countries around the world as well?
Yep, we have the whole world. So you can, some of the biggest ones we have are like France and Germany. Those are large downloads, over a gigabyte, but those are also huge countries. So yeah.
Yeah. So when we're going to find that ape cache in Brazil, we may as well download the entire country of Brazil.
Oh yeah.
To our phone, because who wants to pay for data when you get over there?
Exactly. Yep.
There you go.
Quick and easy.
Hey Nick, speaking of maps,
Yep.
You've also noted that there's been an updated map callout, list view, and cache details screen with more information such as favorites and trackables.
Yep.
Do you want to expand on that a bit for us?
Yeah, so that's the thing I mentioned just a second ago. But so we used to have a design that was missing a bunch of those things in Cachly. So when you tapped a little, a map icon where there was a cache on the map, it would pop up a little map call out. And there was, I'm trying to even remember what it had. It was just minimal information. So we just packed in a lot more information for the user to see without having to navigate all the way to the cache details screen, which has, the full information. So to get them to quickly see the information, if they, they want to see if there was trackables in a cache, they can just tap it or see it in list view without navigating to the full details. Nice. So it was just made it easier for the users. So, which is, Nick, why I developed Cachly for the users, obviously.
Nick, we have a question in the Q&A from UDAC. He says, are you the only one working on Cachly, or do you have other volunteers or workers with you?
It is just me. So I often refer to things as we. It's just really me. I just like to do that. It's
the royal we.
Yeah, exactly. It's just me.
So you answer the phone and go, hold for marketing, please. Marketing department, how are you?
Exactly. Yeah. If I had a phone number for that.
Nice. One of the other things you added in version 2 was souvenirs.
Yep. That was one of the features we were missing, and users were asking for it. So I finally got it added. And like even well, it's not the intro app anymore, but the geocaching.com app, they had souvenirs. They also have the advantage of being able to alert you when you get a new souvenir. We can't do that because they're in control of the API. They're the ones that created it, so they have some special privileges that they can create. But yeah, so you can view your own souvenirs. You can view friends' souvenirs. You can read the details, look at the image of the souvenir. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It was a fun feature to build.
Very cool.
Nice.
Speaking of viewing your friends' souvenirs, noted that there's also an updated user profile.
Yes. So before, we just had simple stats. We had hides and finds. We had how many caches they had favorited, I think how many trackables they had found. So now it's completely redesigned. You can see how many finds, how many hides, but you can actually tap on those and then go view those, on a map or on a list view, and kind of browse, your friends or a user that you find. So you can actually, find out more about them. You can view their logs, and it will sort it by recent dates. You can see what your friends have been doing. What caches that they
Much
found.
better stalking tool than it used to be.
Yeah. What caches have they DNF'd, stuff like that. You can view all the images that they've uploaded in their user gallery to any log. You can see the kind of caches that they've hidden and found, there's stats for all those, how many traditionals and multis they've found and stuff like that. And then you can add that person as a friend, contact them. So it really adds a social media kind of feel to it where, you have users and friends and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, it sounds like pretty much everything you can do through the geocaching.com website when it comes to looking at other people's profiles and your friends and such is enabled through Cachly now.
Yep, that was kind of the idea.
Wow, impressive.
I love it. Now, we know that geocaching.com is spending a lot of effort on lists.
Yes.
Being able to, changing, they want to move everything to the list functionality. Be that watch list, pocket queries, everything needs to move to a list so that once you have a list, you can do a lot of things with it. You also work with a lot of offline lists.
Yes. Yep.
So how did that change in version 2?
So I consolidated a lot of different lists. So yeah, like you're saying, there's pocket queries, there's bookmark lists, there might be a GPX file that you've imported. So there's different ways of getting the cache lists. So now I've consolidated it into just an offline tab. And so now any of those things you do, pocket queries you import, GPX files, saving some live caches into an offline list, those all go into the offline tab. So that's kind of where we manage those. We don't yet have syncing where you can, sync it to a server and then go pick up your iPad with Cachly on it, and then those are automatically appearing. That's something that we don't yet have. So that is an advantage of the official app, that they sync all their stuff to the server somewhere, and then you can log in on a different device. I think that's a small user base that has 2 devices and they want to go back and forth and make sure everything's up synced. So I'm not as worried about it. But yeah, lists are powerful. That's one of the main features of Cachly as well. So.
Nick, considering the size of your development team, this is pretty impressive. How many of these features that geocaching.com has are introducing through their app that you're also introducing, or perhaps even beating them to the punch on a few of these. So. Yeah,
I know they were talking about working on offline. I don't know if they use the word vector, but offline maps again for the app. So since the classic app is kind of gone, people are wishing they had offline maps. So I was proud to, get that released before the new year, because I think they had talked about February, January, something like that they were hoping to release that feature. So yeah, I was happy to do that, happy to get that all finished for myself too, because I had been working on that feature for 4 months. So.
Very
wow,
cool.
That's impressive. I mean, you think, well, yeah, offline maps, how hard can it be? Well, it takes one person 4 months, apparently. Yeah. That's a fair amount of time to work on an individual feature.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah, exactly. One thing you mentioned and kind of glossed over is uploading a GPX file.
Yes.
Into Cachly, or downloading a GPX file. That's huge. So let's say you're out doing a cache machine or doing a geo tour, and they happen to have a GPX file with all the caches in it for you.
Yep.
That's really nice to be able to download that, put that in your offline list, and know that, okay, these are the 17 caches I'm looking for today, and off we go.
Yep.
That's huge. Or if you have caches that are not yet published for an event, you can use that GPX file and say, here, you go grab it off this website or Dropbox link. You can download it into Cachly and off you go. So I've used that several times. It's quick and easy to use, and it's a huge time saver.
Yeah. Yep, that's one of the features I've been working on a lot, making sure there's a lot of integration where you can import them from other apps. You can import GPX from emails, Dropbox integration, like you were saying, iTunes. So there's a lot of ways to really get those GPX files into Cachly and then import that as an offline list.
Very cool. Hey, Nick, also in the updates, we noted that there's a distance scale on the map, which is pretty self-explanatory. I won't ask you to go into details about that, but it's a very useful thing, definitely.
Yes. Yeah.
To have on the map. I always like seeing that. But you have another item here. It's option to keep caches on the map when loading more caches. Can you explain what that means? I'm not sure I follow.
So that was added when I had some Geosphere users starting to come over to Cachly. So Geosphere, the iOS app, if you didn't know, it hasn't been updated for a long time. So I've been getting a lot of users coming from that app. And they have brought a lot of ideas that I hadn't thought of. So there's a feature on that app when you are loading more caches in your area. There's the option to clear all your current caches that you have on the map or preserve them and add the new ones to the map. So basically, those kind of users that came from that app, they like to maybe navigate around an area and load a bunch of caches onto the map, then scroll to a different location and then load a bunch more caches on the map. And then they can save those for offline. So previously in Cachly, you would load a bunch of caches, and if you move the map, it would kind of reset. And if you loaded caches in that new location, it would wipe out those old ones. So that was just how it worked from the start. And I think my users were used to it. I was used to it. But then those new users that came along, they said, hey, we've been using this other app this other way. Can you add that as an option? So now it's a settings option. It's not on by default, but if you go to settings, you can turn that on.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Nick, we warned you this one was coming.
Okay.
Well, I know Seattle wants to know, is this only for iOS?
Hey, it wasn't me that asked.
Yeah, I know. What we want to know, is there an Android version of Cachly?
There's no secret Android version that I'm just like about ready to release. No. My development team is small. It's just me. I've done some Android development. It's not just a quick thing where I transition all the code over to Android. It would be a complete rewrite of everything. And then I would be maintaining two code bases at the same time. So I would release a new feature. I'd have to develop it for both. It would be a huge job. I have a full-time day job as well as working on Cachly, in my free time. So to take something on like that would just be, probably too big at this point. So I have not started working on an Android version yet.
I envy you that you mentioned you have free time. I don't
not
know
a lot of
time
it, to be
is.
honest.
Yeah.
Nick, if people wanted to help encourage you towards the direction of developing an Android version, is there a GoFundMe or anything like that? That's
I've thought about that. I think I could be persuaded if there was enough, interest in that regard. There was actually somebody that created a petition the other day, and I found the link for that, and there was already 50 signatures or something like that. I don't know how that's going to help me in certain ways to be able to develop it, other than just encouraging me. But
that's nice.
Yeah, I've thought about starting something like a GoFundMe account and see how much interest there actually is, and if people want to help, fund the development of it, that would be. I would take it more seriously if that was the case.
Well, I think that's fair, given that it's a small development team.
Yeah,
there's definitely. Time is money, right? There's a cost to doing this, and if people are that passionate about it, if people really want to see that happen, then. It's worth everybody to throw, $5-10 in over time. That's good.
Yep. Yeah, and I could see that going towards hiring on another developer to do that instead of me being the one to do that. So that's probably where the route I would take. So
makes sense.
Well, if you're an Android lover, and I have an Android phone here, there's always CGO.
That's true. See, that's another thing. It's hard to compete with a free app that is open source, that also doesn't use the geocaching.com API that we use. So I have to stay within their guidelines and their terms of service, whereas CGO doesn't do that. So they can, do a lot of things, make it free. So I have to compete with that well at the same time charging $4.99 and trying to make a profit off of it. So I have to take that into consideration as well.
Well, and if memory serves, that's half the price of Geosphere, because I bought Geosphere back in my iOS days. And
I think that one's $6.99. It used to be maybe more expensive, but I mean the classic app was $9.99. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Enough about those other apps. We're here to talk about caching.
Then you had to pay $30 a year to make it useful.
Yeah.
So, hey, Nick, another feature that you've added is caches that are imported from GSAC can be highlighted if the user flag. And again, if anybody's a GSAC user, they'll know what setting the user flag means. But why did you bring that feature in?
So this was just another user suggested feature. All along in Cachly, I've wanted to make it really important to listen to my users. Suggestions and feature requests, I take it very seriously, and many features that are in Cachly have been user suggested. So this is just another one that was suggested by a user. They talked about highlighting caches, which I thought was a great feature. And then they also mentioned, doing a user flag in GSAC. And I'm a Mac guy, obviously, because I do iOS development. So I had to load up my VMware and load up Windows so I could actually, load that app and do the testing. But it's a pretty cool feature once, there's a lot of power users using that on Windows. And so I think it's a really helpful feature. So you can actually grab the GPX file from GSAC, import it into Cachly, and then all those caches will be automatically highlighted. So
what? Maybe you don't necessarily have the answer to this, but and maybe I missed it. But what's the actual use case of highlighting GSAC imported files into, like, when they're on your map?
So users like to maybe highlight a couple caches out of a list that they're going to do for the day, for example. And so then it will highlight it in the list view. It'll highlight them on the map, so you can actually just see those ones. And then if they're using GSAC, they might be checking the user flag as well, because that's where their main database is, probably for their caches that they're holding.
Okay.
And then they're going to go out and cache for the day, and so then they put that into Cachly, and then they have those highlights as well.
They know those are their priority caches for the day.
Yeah. And users can use it however they want, really. Yeah.
Very cool.
So
thanks, Nick.
You could also use GSAC to say, hey, we're going to go out and here's the caches that LandMonkey has found, but I have not, and highlight them, or, what have you. There's a lot of different options. I mean, GSAC is just so powerful in what it can do. Yeah. Another one of the things you did for group caching, and, again, we talked about some of the lists and being able to see what caches other people have found. But you can export pending logs as a text file.
Yep.
And I find this huge in group caching. You can go out as a group. Perhaps only one person is doing the logging in the car. Everybody else is reading. But they could, if they're using Cachly, they can export that pending log as a text file, email it to the other people in the vehicle, and they can upload that into geocaching.com as field notes.
Yep.
So,
and you can also do that through GSAC. There's a interface to import that there as well. So if you're a user of that, that's actually where it came from. I think it was the same user suggested that as the highlight feature. And so I was using those two test cases, GSAC and importing as field notes on geocaching.com. So
very cool. Another item here is the option to turn on compass calibration.
Yeah. So that iOS has an annoying feature where it wants to pop up the compass calibration kind of automatically for random reasons. So I've looked into it, and iOS supposedly does it when it needs to recalibrate itself because its magnetic field has been screwed up. So if you're like in your car or around other electronics, that's when it should.
It's anytime you use your iPhone.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's when it should pop up. But like when I had that feature on and there was no option to turn it off, it would pop up at random times. And in previous versions of iOS, there was no cancel button. So you had to like sit there and calibrate it every time you brought up or GPS was turned on. So users were complaining. So now I have an option where you can turn that off. But sometimes your compass in your phone does get off. And so you really should calibrate it sometimes. But it's fine to leave off most of the time, but maybe turn it back on every once in a while.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is annoying.
It is.
No, I don't want. Okay, fine. You do this.
You sit there and you do the like.
There, okay.
Roll the little ball.
Are you happy? Okay, now can I continue? Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly.
Siri.
Three Hams in a Rose asks, is there a way to test run Cashly? I'm wed to my iPhone app that I spent $10 on looking for cash because as far as I know, it does everything, but I'd like to try Cashly to see if it's better.
There is not a demo version. So Apple doesn't let you do demo versions. It would be great if there was a way to do that and have it expire maybe after 24 hours, something like that. But there's not currently a way to do that. And I opted not to do like a free version with a in-app purchase to upgrade to Pro, because it's hard to maintain a free app and then also a paid app. And so no, there's not currently one. My only suggestion would be that for the price of a coffee that you might buy every day, you could try out Cashly. So really, I don't think it's a huge cost, but that's just, that's my opinion. So
it's coming from the man who receives the money.
Yeah,
it's true.
No, it's true. Three Hams, I would tell you, I went ahead and bought it because of all that I heard about it, and I love it. Looking for cash, I'll be honest, never worked well for me. I just didn't have the right frame of mind to use looking for cash. It got things in an odd way, in my opinion. Cashly, if you used Geosphere, Cashly is very similar, albeit better. So there you have it. So
thank you.
So are there things that you're still working on that maybe we'll see in version 2.1, 2.5, before 3?
Yes. So there's the one feature that I had a feature list that I wanted to put in 2.0, and I achieved all those except for one, and that was a bulk upload of pending logs to geocaching.com. So if you've been out for the day and you have like 30 logs, you still have to upload them one by one. You could export the TXT file and, kind of do it that route. So I'm still working on the bulk upload. It's not as easy as it sounds, because in Cashly you can attach a bunch of photos to a log. You can attach a bunch of trackables that you want to, visit or drop. So each one of those is a network request to the API. So say you have 30 caches for the day that you want to upload, and you have 5 images for each one. That's a lot of things we're doing in the background. And then there's limitations on how many requests you can make to the API per 60 seconds. And so all this boring, complicated stuff that nobody really cares about. But if I don't take care of it, there's going to be a bunch of errors happening and people are going to get mad. So it's involving a lot of testing and, really figuring out how to make it a good feature when it is simple on, in reality, there's a lot of working pieces behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, it's just funny when you think, well, how hard can it be? But then you get a use case of there was a cacher who wanted to log 70 trackables into every cache they found. Yeah.
Yep. I don't think they carried all of them with them, but yeah. And so that one I had never even accounted for. So I was like, whoa, I gotta rethink how this will work, because I never even considered that. So
on the topic of trackables, Nick, you noted here as well in some of the upgrades that there's a trackable search by TB code and tracking code, which is cool.
Yep.
What kind of options does Cashly have when it comes to dealing with trackables? Like, can you dip them? Can you retrieve them? Can you drop them? Can you what kind of stuff can you do with trackables in Cashly?
You can basically do everything you just mentioned. We don't have like a dip list where you could set up kind of a default list of your own trackables that you wanted to just, dip for every single cache you logged. That's something on my feature list, which it's a mile long, all my features that I need to be adding. But yeah, you can basically do anything with trackables that you can on geocaching.com. So it has powerful trackable features.
Very cool.
Yeah. But one thing I also wanted to mention that about upcoming versions that I'm working on is filtering. So in offline lists, right now there's just like a simple search feature, which searches like cache name, cache code, container type, small things like that. But I'm building a new, more powerful like filters functionality where you can add multiple kind of filters and they stack. So you could do, for example, like I only want to show caches in this list with more than 10 favorite points, more than 5 trackables, and that are in Washington State. So you can compound those different filters, and then that's what will filter your list. And then you can clear the filter, and it will show all your caches again. So
I like that.
Yeah, so I'm working on that feature. Those kind of things are hard to build on a mobile device, because there's so many little options and ways to add it. So I'm working on the user interface as well as the functionality right now. So I'm hoping for 2.1, I'll be finished with that one.
So Nick, what kind of feedback have you had on the user interface for Cachly?
Nothing but positive feedback. Everybody really likes it. No complaints really about the user interface. So I've tried to make it, like I said, pleasing to the eye as well as simple for the user and intuitive, but also very powerful. So there's some apps that have been created that are very, very powerful, but they're not very intuitive and they're not very pleasing to the eye. They're not, I don't know. I obviously I'm on iOS, so I kind of follow Apple with their, try to do good design and simplistic with, lots of features packed in there. So not that I'm a designer myself. That's one thing I had to hire out. So I take no credit for the design of Cachly.
Very cool.
Nice. Nick, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Yeah,
if
thank
people
you.
wanted to stalk or get a hold of you, what's the best way
they can use
find
Cachly to stalk him,
They
right?
can-
We already covered that.
Yeah, that's true. If you have Cachly, in the settings, there's an option to contact support. That will come to me. We also have user forums. You can go to cachly.com, and there you will find our user support forums. You can find that where to download the app there as well. I'm on Twitter. My username is @CachlyApp. You can find me there. Find me on Facebook. So quite a few places.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Land Monkey, what about you? Where could people stalk you online?
Well, you can download the Cachly app, and the website's landmonkey.blogspot.ca. And of course, we always encourage people to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope. We're @LandMonkeyGC. And I've got to say, over the last week, the follows on Twitter have started to really increase, and I'm really excited about that. So get the word out there. But yeah, and of course on YouTube, just search Land Monkey, and there's lots of videos of us caching in the snow and digging up geocaches. And just a little bit of a teaser. There's a whole new type of Land Monkey video coming to our YouTube channel soon. That's all I'm going to say right now. That's all I'm going to say right now. But it's how about you, Wits End? Any teasers?
Not really. You can find me old Wits End at Twitter, Facebook, Geocaching, Yellow, all those places, just username Wits End. And rarely updated blog at witsend.us. Chris of the Northwest, sir?
Well, look for me on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, all those. Just search for Caching NW. And don't forget, you can head on over to cashingnw.com/host to read our bios, except for the bear. I haven't gotten a bio from the bear yet.
Buckland.
He's quiet.
Yeah. He doesn't say much.
Yeah.
And find all the links that we just mentioned.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and all of you out there. We want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this here very episode of Caching in the Northwest. You, yes, you can be part of the show. Give us a call, 253-693-TFTC. Leave us a comment. Ask us a question. Email us a petition for Cachly on Android. No, email us an extra gift card anytime, day or night. And of course, you can email us at feedback@cashingnw.com. Your support, well, it helps to keep quality shows coming. So if you like the show, run on over to cashingnw.com and click that Patreon link. If you don't like the show, run on over to cachingnw.com and click the Patreon link. We're not proud. This show is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Copyright, wait for it, 2017, Canada's Sesquicentennial, by Chris Umfenauer. And stay tuned. There's more.
The after show.
That's coming.
There you go. Okay, Nick, now we take a break and we talk, more just among ourselves.
Sounds good.
Pay no attention.
Yeah. Some of this can get strange. Let me tell you.
Okay.
They want to know if there's a monkey back guarantee on Cashly.
A monkey back guarantee.
Yeah.
Not a monkey back, but there is people that have asked it for a refund when they think it's something else. They think it's a totally different product and like a new geocaching something or other. I don't know. Sometimes people, I don't know what they assume it is, but they buy it and they
What
ask for a
other
refund.
kind of
So,
geocache smartphone app could there be?
I don't know. I'm confused too, but I try to be nice and I tell them how they can get a refund. So
There's just no understanding why some people do some things.
Yeah.
exactly.
Wino Seattle says, so, geocaching can get expensive. There's, looking for cache in the old geocaching apps at 10 bones a piece.
Yep.
And then there's a fee for GSAC. And then there's Project GC. And then there's a premium membership. And there's, WSGA, the Washington State Geo. Yeah. So you have all these, for this somewhat free sport, it can suddenly become expensive. That's true.
It's true. Yeah.
And Monkey adds, well, there's cache containers, hiking boots, gas.
Yeah, any hobby is going to require some investment.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hey, I'm scrolling through the chat room from the top, working my way down, looking for hashtag FATAS. We've got one from IHAM. It says, did y'all see about the GPS routing issue for the hike to the frozen waterfalls up near Snoqualmie? I'm not sure what he's talking about. Do you guys?
No. Does it assume the waterfalls are frozen and thus you can go across them?
Did not see that one.
So, IHAM, you're going to have to send us some more information about the GPS routing issue for the hike to the frozen waterfalls up near Snoqualmie.
Oh, and Brylang, I think related to that, adds in FATAS. If an area is closed for the winter conditions, stay the heck out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, that means other people. It doesn't mean me.
Exactly.
Yeah, not a geocacher. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And Wino Seattle, Tracy from World Caching was wondering if you would share the details of your Earth cache that you published. So if you want to add that in, go for it.
Let's see. UDAC, I believe, is BC Rock Climber. Am I correct?
I think that's correct.
That name hasn't I see UDAC and it just doesn't stick. So he says,
BC Rock Crawler, I think.
Crawler. Sorry, you're right. Rock Crawler. Never understood why we need permission for Earth caches, but not traditionals, especially when they're, not allowed or inappropriate.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, here you go. Sometimes it's just the rules are the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So the Earth cache reviewers are not the same reviewers as your geocache reviewers. I think everybody knows that. I'm not telling anybody anything new, but your GeoAware users, so GeoAware CA, GeoAware US 1, 2, 3, 4. Earth caches are not, and again, Brylang, correct me if I'm wrong, Earth caches are actually not even reviewed by your standard reviewers anymore. They just go straight to the Earth cache reviewers, the GeoAware folks, and they have a set of requirements that they were given by geocaching.com and that they collaborated with geocaching.com on putting together. And one of them is obtaining permission from the land users, and they are picky about that one. So I know Shermanator and I have commiserated on this one before. I had an Earth cache that waited almost a year to be published while we tried to get permission from landowners in an area where they didn't really need permission. So the landowners didn't want to give permission because they thought, why are you asking for permission for an area that's publicly accessible 24/7? But the rules are the rules, right? So it's annoying, but it's just something you have to deal with if you're going to publish an Earth cache.
Mm-hmm. We have more information on the GPS issue to the frozen waterfalls. It pointed folks to the wrong exit. Ended up being much harder to hike through the snow over closed Forest Service roads.
Not cool.
B Pendragon says there are some pretty frozen waterfalls near Snoqualmie. GPS apps are sending people to one exit, but they need to go to another one. If they go to the one the GPS tells you, they have to hike. I just read today about some beautiful waterfalls near Snoqualmie. It was a 2-mile hike from the parking area, and you're rewarded with these great views, but I can't remember what waterfalls they're called.
Oh,
yeah, Franklin Falls. Thank you. You knew exactly what we were talking about.
All right. Hey, Nick, question for you.
Yep.
Three Hams in a Row asked, how big, like file size, is the offline map for British Columbia, Canada?
I was just going there.
Off the top of my head, maybe 300 megabytes. I don't know. I'll have to pull it up here.
Okay.
Let's see here. I'm going.
That's all right.
British Columbia is 217 megabytes.
There you go. There you go, Three Hams. 217 megabytes, and you get the whole province.
You can download the full country for 1.3 gigs.
Nice.
Yeah.
Those Canadian gigs, or
Yes.
Those are metric gigs.
Yeah, as opposed to the 75% exchange rate. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't touch on that. You can also export GPX files out of Cachely.
You can. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. The BC map on looking for cache is 1 gig. Says
So
3
it's got to be
Hams.
tile based then,
Wow.
right, Nick?
No, you know what? We actually do maps the same way as looking for cache. I'm not sure why theirs are larger. They do have 2 options where you can do, what is it? Where you can see the different elevations. What's that called again? I'm spacing here.
topographical.
The zoom level?
Yeah, like contours. You can
Okay.
see the contours and stuff. So that one is a bigger download. But yeah, I'm not sure why their regular download of their maps is larger. Because we actually use the same kind of system for offline maps.
Well, I know that Three Hams in a Row does like to use the topographical map, so that might be why there's a larger size there for him.
Yes, but
Yeah.
he's using the non-contour
This is the
line.
non-contour. Okay, fair enough. There you go.
Yeah.
So
And then Brylang asks Nick if your maps will show the contour lines.
They do not. No.
Okay.
It's something I've thought about. It's a whole nother data set that you have to download from like NASA, and then you kind of merge it with the open street data, and it's kind of a complicated process. And so I was just starting out with our vector maps, and then that might come later. So.
wow, I wouldn't think of contour lines coming from NASA.
Yeah, for some reason, a bunch of this data came from NASA. I think it's how they mapped the Earth and got the elevations for everything. NASA must have done it with a satellite they have or something like that. But yeah, that's where when I researched it, that's where you downloaded all the data files from. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Very cool. Yeah.
Well, I know Seattle goes on a little rant.
Yay! Somebody other than me.
Here, yeah, exactly. Here's my question. I recently went out to cache Snoqualmie Ridge. I DNF'd. I found 3 DNF5. Most of the DNF caches were from one specific cacher who seems to be ignoring his needs maintenances. What can be done about this, and why can't the reviewers get on it and archive these long missing caches and allow us responsible geocachers to place good containers?
Where's Skookum Bear? He should be answering that one.
But that's fair to ask. If it's one cache owner who's not responding to maintenance, perhaps there's multiple. Okay, whatever. But it's hard to say, oh, you know what? They were on vacation for 3 months. We decided to archive all their caches because they didn't respond.
I've
I
seen
don't
that
know.
around here, and it's one cache owner, but it's been like years that they haven't attended to them. They've been missing for years, and then the reviewers never have done anything about it. So I agree that's kind of frustrating.
Well, I'll say the reviewers up here have been on a tear recently, cleaning things up, which has been good. I mean, sometimes it's a little annoying if you've got a cache, it needs maintenance. It's a bit of a way out, and you're like, I'm gonna get to it. But hey, you know what? Overall, you're not going to win them all, but overall, to have the reviewers decide, you know what, it's time for a cleanup is good for everybody in the long run.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Wino says, I know what you're talking about, Chris. You had the same issue there. Yes, IHAM and I actually went out there, and there were several in a neighborhood. We thought we'd just swing by and pick up 4 caches. I think we DNF 3 out of the 4.
Oh,
Went, really? Yeah. But, would more needs archives logs or, needs maintenance logs help to get the reviewer's attention? Or is that going to annoy people? Now, we know we should not have multiple people submit needs archived on a cache as we archived it, because we did that once.
I don't know what you mean.
Do we know what the system is like in the back end for reviewers if they get alerts about these? There's got to be some sort of system.
So,
go ahead, Chris.
So BarryLink says a needs archive log. It just moved on me. And there it goes.
Go flag it. Yeah.
Got it?
Thank you. We'll flag it to a reviewer immediately. Or a needs maintenance will make it show up on our report of general caches, or a report of caches that need attention. So, yes, but reviewer to review the messages could be help. A reviewer to review the reviewer messages.
Yeah.
Well, and they're volunteer reviewers. I mean, they don't have, this isn't their full-time job. So
yeah, it's a tough job, but it's also I get Wino in Seattle's point. It is really frustrating when you're doing a hike and a cache comes up, because you run a pocket query, right? And your pocket query, you say, well, don't show me caches that are disabled. Well, fine. But if the cache isn't disabled, but it's probably really not there, and a lot of, and over time, people have been flagging, hey, go and do some maintenance on this thing. It's not there. It gets frustrating. And that's at the point where people start thinking about doing throwdowns, right? So if you want to discourage throwdowns, maintain your caches. Or don't complain when somebody does a throwdown on your cache because you didn't maintain it.
Just don't do a throwdown. Let's not. IHAM says, so are you implying that a needs archive party should not be repeated?
Not on our show.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's have, if you want to do that on your own, I have no opinion about that. But although that I might find it amusing. But and if you're going to do it on a cache in British Columbia.
Just saying.
Wino says, so I can bomb this guy's missing caches with needs archived. I'll be pegged as that guy. Yeah. You may get pegged as that guy, but if you just, if you went out there and said, hey, it's not here, and you flagged a need maintenance or needs archived on a few individual caches, I don't think you'll be pegged as that guy. If you're doing it because you can't find it, well, then you'll become that guy. Yeah, I looked around for 5 minutes. I couldn't find it. It's not here. That's no.
Yeah, no, and BarryLink does say a valid point. The geocacher community may thank you, though, if it is a big problem. Like if this is actually legitimately an issue, this person is just ignoring doing maintenance on their caches. They're not there. They don't care. They're just wasting space now on the map. The rest of the geocaching community will appreciate somebody taking one for the team.
Yeah.
And saying, okay, you know what? Each of these caches gets a needs archived.
Yeah. I agree. It's not fair. Oh, well, just go in a bar and have a beer. You don't want to spend a lot of time out in the cold weather. It's cold. It's not as painful as walking in a bar or into a bar.
Guy walks into a bar, which is really stupid because you think he would have saw it before he walked into it.
Yeah.
Well,
guys, I think that's enough for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Come back next week. We will have even more geocaching goodness right here. And until next time, get out and get caching in the Northwest.